cafe, Noir Vortex, and just been for a walk, which is where most of my philosophical bullshit starts. When I'm going for a walk, having, pondering the world and my place in it and your place in it and blah blah blah. Okay, anyway, so I was going on a walk. It's where most good thinking really occurs. But the thing with walking and thinking at the same time is that you have to get those thoughts down fast, otherwise they just float away. It's a bit like with poetry. If a line comes into your mind, if you don't capture it down pretty fast, it just gets stored back in your subconscious somewhere in some deep recess of the mind, some weird closet in your head. But yeah, okay, so let's have a Strokes beard. So I was thinking a lot about, so obviously, like, if you've been watching these philosophy vids I've been doing, most of my inquiries into philosophy have really just been thinking about the framework of philosophical pessimism and how do I integrate that into my life. Because I think now that I'm a developed adult now, right? I'm 35. In 5 years I'm going to be middle-aged. So I'm just at that very adult point in my life. So the concrete sort of way that I understand the world, I think that even though there is elasticity in the mind and the brain, I think my core principles and way that I understand the world has been set in stone, And essentially, I am a philosophical pessimist. I don't necessarily believe in, I think idealism is all well and good for forming, ways that you can try and slowly change the world. But I don't think I really can believe in many, idealistic ways of understanding the world. I'm a philosophical pessimist, basically, is what I'm saying, just to cut to the chase. At the minute also, I've not really started that much, but I'm looking into the granddaddy of philosophical pessimism, Schopenhauer. My background of philosophical pessimism more generally has been through, of course, Nietzsche, but also some of the existentialists like Mr. Camus, or Chiron. Obviously, he's a nihilist really, and I'm a pessimist, but those are my entry points for this. And I've sort of been exploring it for years, really, on and off. And it's very much like a continental philosophy tradition, I guess, of philosophical pessimism. But anyway, that's not really my point. I think what are the reasons that I've developed this sort of pessimistic worldview, right? I think I've developed this view because it's not just because of my own experience, because that would just be myopic, right? If I just said, "Oh, I'm a pessimist because I've had bad experiences in life," stupid. Everybody's had bad experiences. I've also had very nice, good experiences. So it's not all, it's not all like, "Oh, woe is me. Therefore I'm a philosophical pessimist." I'll be egotistical, myopic. No, I actually believe that even if you look at scientific principles, and I've talked about this many times, entropy is everything tends towards disorder over a given amount of time. Every system breaks down. Every system is sort of closed in a way, and this is maybe sort of a too rationalist a way of understanding everything, but I think everything is essentially a closed loop, a closed system. My existence, my physical mortal existence, is a closed loop. I will have experiences. I will, I will interact with the world physically, spiritually, mentally, whatever. But there's a very small time scale for my actual mortal thinking mind to exist in this plane of existence. And the same is true for everything. My skin cells are dying constantly. My body is in decay since the moment I was born. Same for you. Same for everybody. There's no escaping that, unless we develop some way of genetically being able to regenerate ourselves physically, or I don't know, upload our brain into computers, which to me actually sounds like a fucking horrific idea, but some Google fucking people will want to do that, I guess. But anyway, like, I just think, I think part of developing and maturing is coming to terms with that realization. Mortality, you've got a limited amount of time. You don't have to necessarily even think of that as, oh shit, I'm going to die. It's like, everybody has to die. Pain and suffering are inescapable. Now, people say when you talk about this, you say, "Oh, you're being miserable. You're a miserabilist." It's like, no, I actually want to face the concrete facts of existence, of life. I don't. What? How can we do any philosophy unless we face reality, the starkness of reality? It's impossible. And this can lead to alienation. It can lead to depression and everything. But you have to be strong enough to face these things. I think if you want to go anywhere with, really deeply contemplating the deep questions of existence and the mind, I really think you need to even be prepared to be alienated from the world, all the constructs that we've put up as human beings collectively. You have to be able to face ideology. How ideology often corrupts just human beings. Like, it could even be left or right. And I know I'm repeating myself now, but ideology can be. I don't think any. And I'm still trying to work out if I'm free of ideology. I don't really think I am. Like, I've always been interested in left-wing politics, socialist, anarchist movements, all this sort of thing. And that's ideology. It still has an ideological framework. It still is a belief system that's backed up on several premises, right? So I'm not free of ideology. But also, I think one of the key things I'm concerned with is that you always... I mean, it's fine to have an ideology, right? It's okay to believe in an ideological framework. I don't think there's a problem with that. The problem comes in ideology when people use ideology to dehumanize the other. Now, there's a very obvious way that this happened in the 20th century. The Nazis and the Jews, obviously. That's just scapegoating. There's an ideology. It's a race based on race. And they scapegoated the other. I mean, the Soviets did it as well. They would have done it with capitalists. You're capitalist big scum. We need to take you to mental asylum. We'll train your brain. Or we need to take a gulag and get educated for 4 years on communist ideals, you scum. Or whatever. But how the Stalinist era, basically, in the communist system of... and that was really insane because it was like a cannibalistic. I mean, a lot of people are real believers in the ideology. You almost got subsumed in their own soup of ideological bollocks. But anyway, I basically I have arrived at this philosophical framework. I don't think it's going to change. The thing I'm trying to figure out now, philosophically, and I might even start writing about this, I suspect, is how do you not lose yourself to despair from these realizations that culture is not, well, like Terence McKenna said, culture is not really our friend. It's just a bunch of stereotypes and beliefs that we're brought up in. Like, I was brought up in, not hardcore, because my parents aren't hardcore, but they are basically like Church of England. I was all brought up in that. And that's, that's the sort of cultural frame of reference a lot of people in the UK will have. Sort of this very liberal sort of Christianity that's foisted upon us. But it's you don't have to be a victim of your culture, I suppose. I mean, Terence McKenna, I think, even said this. I'm sort of aping a line that he often spoke about, was that you don't have to be a victim of your culture. You don't have to take on the same assumptions of your culture. And I think pessimism and skepticism is a good philosophical framework for that, because essentially being a pessimist means that you're skeptical of everything in some ways. I mean, and also it doesn't always mean that you just think, oh, life is shit, I'll smoke a cigarette and fucking drink my coffee and fuck everything and fuck God and fuck this and fuck that. No. I mean, obviously, you can go through phases like that in life, like, just like, where you're like, fuck me, everything is shit, the world is corrupt, and everything is corrupt. As soon as anybody gets in power, corruption comes in. As human beings are grouped together en masse, they just become monsters. And that is the alienation that comes with, unfortunately, with this revelation, if you want to call it that, of that the fact that probably the best way of understanding the world is this sort of secular, agnostic, sort of philosophical pessimism. And I'm not saying this will work for everybody. I mean, not everybody can. I don't even think, like, on some level, I don't even think everybody could even take this understanding of the world. I don't think everybody could do it. Some people are very happy with their religious doctrines and whatever ideological doctrines that they're indoctrinated into, and they will never, ever be able to take on board these deeper realizations about human nature and the way that the world functions. Some people cannot take that. They would probably go into a despair. I personally actually think it's wonderful. I would rather be a free individual, born of the cosmos and chaos, than, born of some god who lives in some platonic ideal, world, who lives in some fantasy make-believe utopia and dictates to me, would dictate, like in most Abrahamic religions, right? They say, you must be this way, you must get married, you must do that. I mean, like, God is like God in the Abrahamic religions. Though you could argue that potentially Orthodoxy's corrupted everything from Christ to Gnosticism and all that. Interesting discussion point, but I'm not going to go into that now. But, this God has said to, Christopher Godber, you masturbated on Tuesday. It's getting added to the sins list. Whereas everybody does that. Every single fucking human being has to pleasure themselves sometimes. And the problem with religion is it makes you feel guilty over things which you shouldn't feel guilty about. I mean, what if you're gay? I mean, what if you have a preference, you're a man, a preference for man, or a woman, a preference for woman? Perfectly fine. Absolutely fine. Occurs in nature, everywhere. Observable in nature. Animals do it. We're evolved apes. We do it. We have, some of us have homosexual inclinations. Religion says, no, that's wrong. And then therefore it creates this whole complex for people who are that way. And that's it's not, the ironic thing is, religion will say, oh, this is not natural. The irony is, religion isn't natural. Religion is the unnatural force there. It's a man-made construct that we've created to deal with I don't know, trying to understand the world. I think philosophy is a better way of trying to. Philosophy can change. Science can change. We can always re-examine and change these philosophical positions. I mean, well, if you wanted to say actually about homosexuality, I mean, the Greeks, and I mean, what more needs to be said? They were quite obviously very accepting of that. It wasn't even seen as a, it wasn't seen as abhorrent for gay behaviour between. It's just seen as another aspect of human sexuality. It's religion that caused all the shit with that, really. Fucking, and well, let's not even go into the Catholic Church and the hypocrisy there. I mean, I'm not saying, if I was made emperor of the world, probably one of the first things to do would just be ban Catholicism. No, I wouldn't do that, but I think Catholicism and most religions in general are a stain on the human consciousness. And I mean, again, you can't force people to not believe this shit, but they will. So what can you do? I mean, it's just generally a very low grade belief system. But anyway, I'd rather believe in the beauty. And I think the world is beautiful. I do think there is beauty in the world. I've just been on a walk, observing nature, the River Thames, and it's beautiful. Just listening to the wind, the water. I mean, this is romanticism in a sense, but I'm perfectly in tune with romanticism of the world around us. And this even the city can be beautiful. It doesn't even have to be natural environments. The city that we've created. But again, it's nature, because we are an aspect of nature. We are not separate from nature. We are nature. Even nuclear bombs, this may sound bizarre, But nuclear bombs are, well, it's the Manhattan Project. The people, human beings and scientists that made that thing come from nature. They come from a woman's body. They're born from a woman's body. They designed this destructive force, which is actually taking, using a property of nature, the power of the atom. And I'll finally finish on this bit because I think I'm rambling too much. But I'm just trying to summarise everything I was thinking about on the walk. Nature is not good or evil. It is neither of these things. We are aspects of nature. We have both, and it's not even worth thinking of it in terms of good and evil. I mean, nature can create. Look at it. Think of a wonderful waterfall, or I don't know, gay shit, like beautiful rainbow. I'm not saying that as bad for it. Just think it's funny. We're like a beautiful rainbow over the sky and some beautiful clouds, amazing, beautiful nature. What else does nature create? I don't know, fucking lions chasing antelope on plains and ripping them to pieces. Nature is violent. Nature is violent. And far too often I see people just idealizing nature and just saying, oh, it's no. Nature is both the greatest aspect of, it's almost like all-encompassing, really. But it's also violent, it's also terrible, there's also storms, there's lightning storms, people get struck by lightning. What I'm saying is, we tend to, and I think God is nature, actually. I don't believe in the God of the personal God, the Abrahamic God, any of this bollocks. It's all nonsense, it's all man-made, patriarchal sort of power games. But nature is probably truly the only God we have. I like there's that Billy Connolly routine where he essentially says the sun is God, and I think the great painter Turner, his last words were the sun is God, and Turner was a great artist and he had a great understanding of the world, I think, and I think he was actually onto something there with his final words. The sun is the closest thing we have to God. But basically the hydrocarbon, all the sort of elements that make us up come from the sort of the conditions to create us come from the universe. We are the thinking universe. We're the thinking apes of the universe. And realising that, and actually coming to that realisation and accepting that and just almost rejoicing in the glory of it is one way to find any sort of meaning. Because you're the one, you right there, you're the one that's going to have to create meaning in your life. And that's the struggle. That can create alienation. That can create... But embrace it. I mean, don't run from it. Don't just hand off your path to creating anything of meaning in this life. Embrace that chaos. Embrace that struggle, because it will be. And I'm struggling with it at the minute as well. Like I've been struggling with it most of my adult life. I paint. I make write. I do all this thing, and it's hard. It's hard to be even conventionally successful in those worlds. But slowly and surely, the more you struggle, the more you do, the more you create, the more small successes and recognition you get. And it's not even about that, really. It's more about just sharing ideas and having ideas and debating and philosophizing. And I have my regrets. I wish I had actually studied philosophy in a way at university, but I've studied it anyway. I mean, I was going to, actually. But I've studied it anyway, and I've got my career in computer science and everything, and that's providing me a stable income, so... Anyway, I think I've gone way off track now. I hope you enjoyed that sort of just more philosophical ruminations from a tortured northern hairy man. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Basically, it's just some ruminations of philosophical pessimism, the world as it is, and accepting the world as it is, and just getting on with it, really, and trying to. I probably actually want to read some of this again. I need to, I really need to grasp Schopenhauer, because I haven't grasped any of it yet, and obviously he's one of the big ones. One other thought I had, I'll end it on this note. This is quite a drab note, actually, I'll say that. So, there was this philosopher, German philosopher, Philip Mainlander, who I've mentioned before, I think, in some of my vlogs. I think one of the what can be one of the downsides, though, with philosophical pessimism, related to what I was saying before, you have to be quite mentally strong to take on this philosophical framework. So he had this metaphysical idea that God killed itself. it's not him, is it? But whatever it is, killed itself to create the universe. This actually occurs, I believe, also in some sort of creation myths, the idea that God is this being that just sacrificed its very being to create everything. So but Mainlander also killed himself. So Mainlander, ironically enough, after the publication of his book where he expressed this idea about the metaphysics of the universe basically being based on suicide, which is a dark idea. Don't get me wrong, that is really quite a dark, hard idea to grasp, in terms of the metaphysics of it. So there are certain dangers with this philosophical, pessimistic outlook, in that it can become overwhelmingly grim. But I do feel, and I still feel, that you can get strength from it. And I think one of the main strengths you can get from philosophical pessimism is becoming comfortable, actually, with loneliness and being on your own. Now, this is going to sound quite weird. Not everybody can actually... I think, as a human being, if you can really, really be on your own for an extended amount of time, then you're a strong human being. If you look around you, especially on the age of social media, so many people are just broadcasting how good their relationships are. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, it's fine, it's fair enough. I've done it myself. When I was in a relationship for 4 years, and we had a lovely time. Most of the time we had a lovely time. We'd post our, we're going on this trip, or we're doing this together. It's cute, it's cute. But also, that is all well and good. I'm not here to shit on relationships, because relationships can be very enriching, and they can really make you better as a human being. I mean, it happened for me. I was made better by that relationship, the longest relationship of my life, actually, the 4-year relationship. Made me a better person. I became more aware of my weaknesses as well, and things I have to work on. It wasn't just, yeah. But anyway, I think before you over rely on relationships to get meaning, I think you have to become, ideally, very comfortable with just your own company. I think if you can do that, you can actually have better relationships. I honestly believe that. If you're comfortable with yourself, you're comfortable on your own, then you can have a better time with a partner. And especially if your partner isn't insecure and wants constant attention, that is... I mean, I've actually been looking into this with my therapist. I'll go into this a little bit now. But that, to me, is like kryptonite. If I have a partner who wants constant reassurance and constant... I mean, I don't mind, obviously, supporting and, being supportive and, being there for them. But if I had a partner who was just constantly wanting my attention, constantly, not letting me have my own life outside of the relationship, shit's like kryptonite to me Anyway, that's enough of a ramble. I think I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed that. If you got any meaning from that, or any sort of ideas you want to respond, I know Mike, you respond quite a lot on here, so I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts, because you're fairly well read, and yeah, feel free to respond, and I'll leave it at that for now. It's quite a long one, it's 20 something minutes, so in a bit.